everyone. Welcome to Wine.com Experiences. I'm Gwendolyn Osborne. Today we are talking about Malbec, and to be a little bit more specific, we're talking about Malbec in Argentina. This is going to be a really fun tasting because, as many of you may know, Malbec was originally a Bordeaux grape, and it's still often used in Bordeaux blends around the world. But while it's normally, in those cases, been kind of a supporting grape, if you will, in the background, it has had huge success in Argentina. And just over the past several decades, it has evolved from just making some, good Argentine Malbec into making premium world-renowned Malbec from Argentina. So we have 3 wines to showcase the success and 3 guests who will be able to elaborate on why Malbec and Argentina are such a perfect match. If you purchase this trio ahead of time from Wine.com, wonderful. Please make sure you get those wines open and into some glassware. These are the kinds, this is the kind of tasting where tasting these wines side by side really makes the tasting so much better, because you get to kind of enjoy the similarities and differences between the wines from this one place. So if you don't have the wines, Wine.com, we still have that trio available. And of course, this video lives on our Wine.com YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed already, I encourage you to do so. The 3 wines we're tasting, which were just up there, are the Zuccardi Q Malbec, the Susana Balbo Signature Malbec, and the Altos Las Hormigas Reserva Malbec. So let's bring in our guests to speak to these wines. From Zuccardi Family Vineyard, we have Sebastian Zuccardi, who is 3rd generation family owner and winemaker. Welcome, Sebastian. We also have Susana Balbo, who is founder owner of Susana Balbo. Susana, there's Sebastian. Hello, Sebastian. And then who's already here, Alberto Antonini, who is founder and winemaker at Las Hormigas. Sorry, Las Altos Las Hormigas. So good to have you all here. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome. Alberto, I know you're up late, so I appreciate your time coming in. We're excited to taste these wines and talk about Malbec and Argentina. So you all have such unique and different backgrounds, but you all have the one thing in common, where this passion for Malbec in Argentina. So I kind of wanted to start off with a question that you can each answer kind of briefly, because we'll have time to dive more into it. But what do you love about working with Malbec specifically in Argentina? What makes that so unique? And Sebastian, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. Really, when you walk the vineyards, when you taste the grapes, and when you make the wines, you can see easily the adaptation that the grape has to the place. Malbec was something that happened in the field for generations and generations of viticultures, that they were not looking the market, they were looking the field, and they did a selection, because our viticulture started many years ago with the immigration that came from Spain, Italy, and also from France, and they brought grapes from all these countries. But then generation and generation of growers continue planting, replanting, and selecting. So Malbec at the end was not a marketing plan. Malbec was something that really happened in the field. And the adaptation that Malbec has to the area is really because found the place, and the relationship that Malbec have with the Andes mountain is fantastic, because at the end we make in our area mountain wines. And really, I believe that Malbec is the best vehicle to express our wines, because the adaptation, but also the transparency that has to the different places.
Yeah, oh, that's beautiful. I'm so excited to taste all of the wines. Susana, what about you?
Well, after 40 years making wine, I realized Malbec find out the place in Argentina. And many years ago, we were doing wines with a similar characteristic from all over the different regions in Mendoza. However, those wines were bold, are concentrated, full body, sweet in the palate. And today we are seeing the Malbec showing the expression of the identity as to every place we are planting after so many years, as Sebastian explained, the adaptation of the variety. Today, we are seeing how the variety is adapting at the different altitude, having their own personality, showing the profile that the soil and the place can show. So today, we have much more offer to show Malbec plasticity as the variety that can show so many different microclimates we have. So it's amazing variety.
Yeah. Alberto, what stands out for you, loving to work with this grape in this place?
Well, you know, my first encounter with Malbec was back in '95 on my first trip to Mendoza, and was really love at the first sight, because, you know, coming from Tuscany, from very far away, and ending up in such a magic place, you know, vineyards that had, you know, 80, 100 years old, and you know, at 12, 1,300 meters of elevation was, for me, it was something very, very special. Plus, you know, even if I was coming from far away, I found a very familiar environment for me. I was feeling like I was in Italy. Obviously, the environment was different, but was really very, very comfortable. And Malbec became my best friend. I love, you know, his flavor. I love, you know, how friendly he is, and it just really starting, you know, making wine and really appreciating, you know, all his essence more and more and more.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to start tasting these wines, and okay, fine. I've tasted them before we got here, but let's talk and taste at the same time. So, Sebastian, we are going to start with the Zuccardi Q. So, Sebastian, first, I'd love to hear a little bit about the evolution of Zuccardi as a producer, since its first plantings in the 1960s. Just kind of how it's evolved over these past.
Yes, you know, I'm the third generation of the family making wine. My grandfather started in wine, but he didn't have any relationship with wine, but he developed a very efficient irrigation system. And where we live, it's not possible to cultivate without irrigation. So he bought the property with the idea only to show how his irrigation system worked. And he fell in love of agriculture. He discovered that his really passion was agriculture. So he decided to continue planting vineyards. Then when my father joined the company, was the big growth with continue planting and making wine. And then the third generation joined the family, and I decided to put my life in wine because it's really my passion. And I pushed the family to go to cultivate closer to the Andes. I told you before that I believe that we make mountain wines. So if we want to make wines that express the mountain, we need to cultivate closer to the mountain. And really the Uco Valley is the area that gives us the possibility in Mendoza to be closer. And every time that you go up, you are moving to a cooler weather. You can see the pictures there. That is our winery in the Uco Valley. So we moved to cultivate to places like Altamira, San Pablo, or Gualtajari, that are villages in the Uco Valley, and really in the area that is in front of the Andes.
Yeah.
Really, the mountain gives to us the weather, the water, the soils, and our cosmovision, our identity. So we really make mountain wines, and the Uco Valley is the area that is closest.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that one of the specialties you've kind of taken on is dirt, the soils, you know, the dirt where it's grown, kind of a specialty. But you know, when I look at why Malbec and Argentina do so well, you kind of are seeing that, one, you have a wonderful soil composition, but also, like you said, you're getting closer to the mountains, and as you do, you go higher in elevation, correct? And that's what's benefiting the grape.
Yes. One of them, the magic of the Uco Valley is the diversity, because you have a big difference of altitude in few kilometers. For example, in 20 kilometers in the Uco Valley, you can move from 900 meters to 1,700 meters. And in this, you change all the weather conditions. So in very few distance, you can cultivate in cooler or warmer areas. And also, if you cross this with our alluvial formations of soils that give us a lot of variation, you can see that the Uco Valley is much more diverse than one region, and you have inside different villages with different altitudes and different kind of soils. And the magic of Malbec is the transparency to the places. It's really fantastic. See how Malbec can show the uniqueness and the identity of every place.
So this wine that we're tasting here is from the Uco Valley.
Yes,
is it a blend of vineyards? Is it a specific vineyard?
This wine is our beginning in Zuccardi, and it's our blend of Malbec from the Uco Valley, and come from two villages in the Uco Valley, two villages that are very close to the mountain. That one is Paraje Altamira and the other is Los Chacalles. And these two villages are between 1,100 meters to 1,200 meters of altitude. But the interesting thing is that because are so close to the mountain, the soils are very stony. And in Paraje Altamira in particular, you can find very big stones and granite stones combined with calcaire material. So the uniqueness of the weather in terms of altitude, but also light, because we live in a cooler weather, but with a very pure sunlight, that this is one of the difference of our place. And this combination of soils where you have stones, granite, and calcaire give us the possibility to make this kind of wines where you can combine intensity with freshness.
Yeah, and I know that the freshness is so key in this. So also, as we're tasting, I'll make you do a tasting note in a moment to just kind of highlight it. But how do you preserve that freshness and intensity in the cellar?
First, the only way to preserve freshness and intensity is in the vineyard, making a great work in the vineyard. Then the winery is the extension of the vineyard, and we try to keep all this intensity that is coming. But really, in the winery, we felt that the way to work is the more simple than we can. And we are working with concrete material that give us also the possibility that not has any invasion, any impact in terms of aromas or flavors, and also leave less micro-oxygenation during the aging. And this gives us the possibility to keep this freshness, this intensity, this tension that the Uco Valley gives to us.
So you're using concrete and almost like amphora shape, right? Kind of.
Yes, the winery that is in the picture is 100% concrete.
100% concrete. And then you move it to old oak also, or is that the other wine? What about this one? Tell me what this one. Dusty's concrete, or?
My view is that we have to respect the energy of the wine, and then we can work with the material that we want. But the focus is respect the tension, keep the electricity of the wine and the freshness. So we do all the fermentation in concrete, and we work with some whole cluster during the fermentation. Okay. And then 70% of this wine was aging in concrete, so fermenting and aging in concrete. And 30% we moved to oak, big sizes, 500 liters or 2,500 liters, but used more than 6-7 years. So we are not looking for the flavor of the oak. We are looking to age the wine in a natural material. Mm-hmm. And as you say, our concrete vats, the interesting thing is that we build with sand, stones, and water from the same field. So there is a big connection between the vineyard and the winery. That is it's a very important thing for us.
Coming from the same place. That's very cool. So walk us through this wine, maybe give us one of those classic tasting notes, and maybe as we talk about the aromas and flavors, you can kind of touch on, how that is impacted by the soil and the aging.
When you smell this wine, you're going to feel a profile more in the red fruit, because we try to avoid overripe, so we look for freshness. But also the place where we cultivate is surrounded by natural vegetation. So the aromas that you have around the vineyards is fantastic in terms of thyme or all this natural vegetation. So I believe that in the wine you are going to find a red fruit profile, but also a lot of flowers like violets, mm-hmm. and all this intensity of the natural vegetation like thyme or these aromas, a little bit herbs aromas. So we are looking for layers in the nose. And then when you go to the mouth, because this quantity of chalk or calcaire in the soils, I believe that gives this a lot of texture to the wine. So it's a wine that will be juicy because Malbec naturally is a very juicy grape, but at the end you are going to have this texture that can combine with salinity. So for me are wines that are more longer than wider, and I'm looking intensity but not sweetness. And this is the challenge when we make the wines.
Yeah, and even in the nose, I felt that, I mean, when you mentioned granite and stone, all of a sudden in the nose, I was like, I'm getting granite and stone. I know those are harder to smell, but there's something in there that has that earth. Maybe it's the salinity, it's the stoniness, but it's very present to balance that juiciness.
You know, the place is magic, really, because when you see this altitude, this cold weather that give you the possibility to ripe very slowly, but then with this sun that is extremely pure, so create a lot of intensity in the flavors. And then the roots growing in this sandy, but with the stones and calcare, and this unique combination between granite and calcare that came from the Andes mountain, really is a place that everything happened in a high level. And our challenge is how to put in the glass in the more transparency way, respecting the freshness. I'm not looking to make perfect wines. I'm looking to make wines that talk about the place and talk about our cosmovision about the place, because I believe in uniqueness of wine.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, a perfect wine does reflect the place. Otherwise, you're kind of, what's the point? So
it's place and people, because you
place,
give the same
people, it's the grape, it's, it's, I guess, the definition of terroir, right?
Yes.
All those things together. So I love the way this balances the freshness, the intensity, the fruit, the stoniness. It has that energy, like you said. It's almost this tension that comes through in the wine. So does everybody does everybody just drink wine with steak, or do people mix it up a little bit in Argentina? Is there
Sorry?
I said, does everybody just drink their Malbecs with steak in Argentina, or do you have like?
Yes. In general, yes, because food, the asado, that is our main important food, is always more than food. It's part of our way to live. The asado starts when you turn on the fire and the people is around the fire talking. So eat the barbecue is much more than eat. Means a tradition, means be around and I believe that this kind of wine that has tension and texture works very well when you make a beef raw, that you have a lot of juiciness in the beef, and then with this texture and with this tension, you clean the mouth. Yeah. So yes, if I have to choose.
I was tempted to say, what do you like to pair with this? Like, it's beef and a good chimichurri. So Sebastian, thank you so much. Beautiful wine. Appreciate it. So Susana, we are tasting the Susana Balbo signature Malbec with Susana Balbo. So Susana, you were the first female to receive a degree in enology in Argentina after pushing many boundaries in the traditional world of wine at the time, especially in Argentina. And that was nearly 40 years ago. And you have just only grown and gotten bigger and better. So that's wonderful. But tell me a little bit about, I guess, how you spoke a little bit to it of how Malbec has evolved over the past several decades, but just Malbec as a grape. I feel like you were right there at the time that people were grabbing in saying Malbec belongs here. It's doing well. Why?
Well, I think as we talked in the beginning, Malbec find out in Argentina, where our climate is a continental climate, very dry climate, and Malbec likes very weak soils, and our soils are very weak without too much organic material, was developing a beautiful characteristic. 40 years ago, for us, it was everything about to make a wine that has certain composition in between sugar and acidity. That's it. And even in the beginning of the 80s in Argentina, people were drinking a little more white rather than reds. However, some winemakers were doing very deep, bold Malbec with a lot of pumping over extracting the Malbec, like Raúl de la Mota working in Weiner and doing some very outstanding wines. However, doesn't was the normal way that people was doing Malbec 40 years ago. Today, after many years, all the winemakers, we were looking for to have the consistency of the Malbec as our flagship variety from Argentina, because we realize it's the variety that shows the characteristic of our environment, our land and our place, that uniqueness. And all of us were coming together to one style that was more suitable for international palate, more elegant, and we did it. We really arrived to a style that the Malbec today is showing, as Sebastian told. He called the transparency. I call is something that has the identity of the terroir, the place, without losing the characteristic of the variety, because the variety is soft, is approachable, is easy to drink since the very beginning, however, with a huge potential of aging. Sometimes people, when they taste them, that they feel the wine is so beautiful in the palate, or some approach is so approachable in the beginning, people can be skeptical about the aging potential. However, this wine has a great, great aging potential. So, and among the 40 years I'm making wines, many change happens from bold, sweet, full palate wines to more elegant wine, more direct, more in the expression of the terroir, with the beautiful tension and acidity and the balance between all the components in the wine.
Yeah, and you created, eventually had the pleasure of creating your own winery in 1999. What is a little bit about your mission philosophy of Susana Balbo?
Well, you know, I built my company from scratch, and in my life, in my working life, 40 years now, I've been from the very simple worker in a winery until the owner and founder of a winery, and one of the protagonists of the change in the wine styling and what happened in Argentina right now. So I'm a blessed person to have this long career, and I can talk about the people, what happened in Argentina in so many years. And with this experience, when I founded my company, when I settled my company, I decided to settle a company that are absolutely focused in quality, in equity, equidad. I don't know, sorry.
I think equity, you might mean equity of just...
Equity, the same rights for women's, men's, and diversity, trying to give our employees the facility to get better education, social responsibility development. We were, and we are one of the few, I think if we are the only one, that signed it many years ago, the Global Compact compromise, that for us as a company is a compromise to fight against corruption, against childhood working, for the rights of the women, for the right of the diversity people, because we truly believe the company or a winery should be a place where people can evolve, can find out. Is like a family that embrace them and help them to be better people and to have more education and to have better life.
That's good. That's kind of that sustainability, not just in the vineyards, but in
absolutely.
The life.
It's sustainable, because sustainability is settled under the philosophy and the values pillar, and also the sustainability of the environment, looking after very limited resource as the water is for us, and also recycling and to diminish the carbon footprint, to look after the world for our kids and our grandkids, because I have 4 grandkids.
Oh, good. Well, congratulations. And I know that just, Sebastian, you didn't speak much to it, but I know all of you are doing a lot of efforts with the environment, which is just wonderful of where you are. But let's taste this Susana Balbo Malbec here, and maybe tell us a little bit about what makes this Malbec kind of a classic Malbec of Argentina, but also what makes it unique.
Well, Gwendolyn, we are tasting, I think by chance, the 3 of the wine we are tasting today are from the same area, that is Altamira, the 3 of them. And I think here people have the chance to identify the different winemaking procedures. And in my wine is everything about to have the respect of what we achieved in the vineyard, because as Sebastian told, the great wines born in the vineyard. Great grapes make great wines. However, I like to have a little touch of my winemaking, giving into the wine a touch of 30% of new oak, toasted, very light toasted with convection that delivers into the wine sweetness from the oak. However, not with the touch of the very strong coffee or chocolate. No, if you taste the wine, you can see it seems that doesn't have oak, and 70% is second use oak. And then all the procedures in the winery is fermented in concrete eggs, and also in barrels, and also in vats, wooden vats. And I mix all of the compounds to achieve different layers of flavors, giving complexity into the wine. In this wine, you are going to find blackberries, black cherry flavor, characteristic of the Malbec, the violet that Sebastian talked, is one of the character of Altamira. Is a few places can deliver this descriptor of the Malbec, the violet characters, and also has a beautiful mid palate, given for the tensity and the acidity that is the natural acidity. Because in many places in Argentina, winemakers need to add a little tartaric in order to get the balance. In Altamira and in Uco Valley, you don't need to add a tartaric acid, because it's naturally, the acidity is natural and is very well balanced itself for the soil composition.
Yeah, and I love that there's a wonderful texture there to the mid palate, and even in the aromas, just in, I guess, in comparison, if you will, there's like the slightest little almost smokiness coming through. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and since '99, I'm making my signature Malbec from the same vineyard, because for me it's really unique, and we work the same plot every year for this wine. So the consistency every year is amazing. And the wine has a very fine grain tannins, and gives the wine a beautiful aging potential, very beautiful aging potential.
Yeah, both of these wines have that wonderful freshness, but wonderful structure that tells you about that. So gracias. Thank you, Susana. It's beautiful wine. So Alberto, we are moving to Altos Las Hormigas. And so Alberto, you are Italian, and as you mentioned, you came from Tuscany in the mid 1990s to Argentina, and you fell in love. What stood out about Argentina and Malbec to say, okay, if I'm going to make wine somewhere else other than Italy, this is what I want to do?
Well, again, as I was saying initially, it's my first trip was very important because, I really fall in love with the place. Mendoza is quite unique. And as Sebastian and Susana have already very well described, just the combination of altitude, intense sunlight, and amazing soil from the Cordillera de los Andes and everything, makes the environment pretty unique. And I have to say that on top of it, Malbec was really my favorite grape and my favorite wine. And the beginning of Altos was pretty much about that, trying to develop a project that was quite a challenge by then, because on that time, Mendoza, like most of the world, was under a very strong Bordeaux colonization, and local people, like people all over the world, they were more focused in the making of their premium wines, to use international grapes like Cabernet, Merlot, Chardonnay, etc. And Malbec was there, was fantastic because, was there for over 100 years, but probably was not, there was not the confidence of looking at that like really a standout grape, like something that could help to make, fantastic, premium wines. And it was a challenge because, again, we were dealing with a pretty unknown grape, coming, from an area that internationally was not known yet. So it's was exciting, but also was difficult. But we were lucky because we had success with the first release, which was 1997, which there was a lot of appreciation in Argentina, but also outside of Argentina, and that encouraged us to move on and to stay focused on this grape, which for many years, until now, is the main grape used in the project of Altos Las Hormigas. Approximately, after 10 years of making wine, so around in 2006 or so, we were feeling that it was time to show the world that Malbec was not just a huge ocean of a friendly, juicy, approachable wine, but was a lot more than that. And I was feeling that I needed to deepen my knowledge and to understand a bit more about the diversity of the different terroir I was working with. And
sorry, is this when you started the Terroir project?
Is that when I started? Yeah, in 2006, the Terroir project. I was feeling that, I had experience with making wine from different Malbec, from different Mendoza areas, but I was feeling also that I needed some help. And I had met the year before a very good terroir specialist who's a Chilean guy whose name is Pedro Parra. And I invited him to come over to cross the Cordillera and try to work with him and to understand with him the reason why I was feeling that part of the, that part of the region giving me juiciness, the other one giving me more texture and more vibrancy and more vitality, and the other one giving me more intensity, etc. And we started the journey with him, which has been very exciting. I could, give him my experience in making wine, with grapes from different parts of the province, and he was, introducing me to the understanding of the subsoil and the importance of dealing with the market terroir. Also, was very interesting to understand that geology doesn't really know what is new world and old world. I'm European, and so I'm an old world guy.
Right, but geology's been there forever. So it's like,
and many people by then were thinking that, terroir is something that belongs to Europe, which is absolutely wrong. Europe has only started a lot earlier to work with the approach and concept, but actually the diversity that you find in any region of the world is exactly the same. And that was encouraging because we were feeling that, understanding the macro terroir and keeping separate some lots, we were really achieving completely different wine profile, as Sebastian was underlining before, and Susana as well. So that's the second step of the journey, the second chapter. So first one, to focus on Malbec 100%. Second, try to show the world that Malbec is a grape, but Argentina is a lot more. So trying to sell more Argentina and less Malbec. And the third chapter has been in the last 10 years to focus on a different kind of farming, which now we had to call with names that people are familiar with, which is organic or biodynamic, but actually was the farming that people there, and like in most parts of the world, used to do before the arrival of synthetic chemicals, before, the 30s. And that has been also exciting because to me, if you want to make wines with a sense of place, you have first to understand how to preserve the place. Otherwise, you end up making wine with a sense of a destroyed place, which is not fun. And I think it's the three elements to have combined, have come together in the last vineyard that we planted a few years ago in Altamira, which is Jardín Altamira, which to me is the nicest toy today, because it's, in a way, is the history of what I've been doing in the past 25 years. And I'm excited to work with that. Is an estate, it's 50 hectares, but within the estate, we have found, along with Pedro, 6 or 7 different micro terroir. We are sourcing and making the wine from separately, and that's really very, very exciting.
And so let's taste the wine, especially for those who might be tasting with us, kind of talking through, as we taste this wine, what is being reflected from that soil, that terroir, that sense of place, and that farming.
Well, you know, there are 2 ways to make wine. You can either make wine for the market, or you can try to find the market for your wine. You know, we started initially, probably we were more on the first side, and then slowly move on the other ones. And the change was not difficult, but obviously we were a little concerned just to move toward wines which were more pure, more authentic, which had a different profile. So playing more with texture and not concentration. I don't really like the word concentration. I don't really like what that means, what they taste, because at the end, you know, I believe that textural wine is interesting because texture is a very alive structure which is moving around your mouth, which is plenty of vitality, and that's what I really enjoy in the wines. So we were moving from concentration to texture, and in order to do so, as Sebastian was saying, you had to be aware of which are the potential enemies of textural wine, which is definitely the over maturation of the grape, the over extraction, and also the use of oak. I like to say that a great piece of beef doesn't need to be painted with barbecue sauce. So I believe that the combination of great soil, amazing vines, and great climate is more than enough to deliver plenty of flavors and aromas. So the use of invasive oak and introducing into the wine flavor and aromas which are not coming from this magic combination is not bad. It's not bad flavor at all, but it's not what we are looking for. It's not an experience, because, you know, oak flavor are the same all over the world. So we try to switch from one style slowly to another one, which is obviously based on fermenting the wine in a very light material. I like, cement a lot. I think it's a great environment, especially when you ferment with native yeast, because obviously they love to live in such.
Oh,
Italy.
oh my God.
Where did he go? You're talking about cement and oak.
Technology.
And technology. It does. So let me see. I was trying to think, what else could I ask you about? Possibly, I was going to see if anybody had a really good recipe for chimichurri. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Because I'm thinking I've got 3 Malbecs open. What am I going to have with it? Maybe some steak with chimichurri sauce. But so hopefully Alberto will come back and join us. But really enjoying this wine. Do either of you? Oh, there he is. Hello. I was going to ask him. Oh, I'm gone now. Do either of you have Alberto's wine with you at all?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to taste it? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any thoughts that Alberto would give on this wine, kind of in that same vein of saying this is what makes it that classic Malbec?
It's very interesting to listen what Alberto has been saying about his vision, about his change, because he said, okay, we moved from here to here. And when you taste the wines from Altos Las Hormigas today, you have this feeling that it's a feeling that they are a little bit reducing the impact of the winery or the winemaking in order to try to show the place. And it's a wine that I think is a very beautiful view about the vision of Alberto in the Uco Valley.
Yeah.
Alberto is coming back. He's
Oh,
now.
good. Alberto, we were having Sebastian and Susana were giving their tasting notes.
I fallen asleep, you know, it's 1:40.
It is 1:30 in the morning. I don't blame you. I really don't.
No, just kidding. The connection is good, but I'm in the countryside, so sometimes it's fake, believe it. But
okay. That's
it
okay.
never
We'd
happens.
rather you be in the vineyards than
It does.
Computer, so.
And all right. And so I was saying that when you want to deliver wines with this character, you have to be coherent in the farming, trying to understand how to keep the integrity of the environment and of the fruit in the winemaking, in the aging and everything. So it's a bit of I like to say that, in my experience, less is more, but it's also true that to do less, you had to know more. So my experience has been that when I had decided to do less, I realized that I had to be closer to the grapes, I had to be closer to the winemaking and everything in order to achieve, results that are really very satisfying. And and I'm glad to see that the perception now in the world when we talk about Mendoza and Malbec is completely different from 20 years ago. And people really appreciate the huge level of diversity that now Argentina is offering. It has the industry has evolved in an incredible way. I remember my early days, and now it is a completely different environment. It's been a fantastic journey for me, and I'm sure that there is a lot to show in the coming years. Many people are discussing if diversity can be created by introducing more grapes or just having wines from made with the same grape from different terroir. There are options, and everyone can select the best, but again, the world is showing that go to Burgundy and they make a lot of different wine with 2 grapes, 1 red and 1 white, and other regions that are using more grapes. So it just is not a big issue to me.
So I think that, well, thank you so much, Albert. I mean, this is a beautiful wine, and all these wines have some similarities, but they're very starkly different as well. And I one thing clear after tasting these wines and hearing from you all, so Argentina doesn't now only produce just some Malbec. You have passionate producers with decades of knowledge who are just more in tune with that place and the soil and what can happen in the cellar. And that helps to craft these brilliant wines that reflect the unique qualities of the terroir from where it's coming. And they're just beautiful. So, but with that said, I mean, every region, just as Alberto was mentioning, kind of evolves, and everybody's always looking to what else maybe. So I'd love to know from you, kind of what excites you about Argentina right now and possibly in the future, but even just right now, is there any grape variety you're experimenting with? Are you focused on trying to really focus in on the vineyards, single vineyard varieties? What is kind of something you're thinking is great right now and going towards? So
can I tell you something?
Yes, go for it, Susana. Do it.
Well, something important, Gwendolyn, we didn't point out, and I think Sebastian and Alberto are going to agree with me. Argentina is so healthy place to grow vineyard. For instance, all our vineyards are organic right now. Doesn't mean that we are doing just all organic wine. We do some organic wine, but as well, we do my Malbec is grow with organic grown varieties of Malbec, made in the traditional way of winemaking. And next for Argentina, in my perception, as what happened in the war, 50 and 50% white wine consumption and red wine consumption, the next good challenge for Argentina is to show we are doing a great and very international style of white wines at very high end, and we need people being aware about that, because if not, Argentina is losing some part of the market, very important market. And we have the potential because our mountains and our place is plenty of opportunities, and we are developing beautiful vineyards in San Pablo and in Gualtallarí as well, delivering amazing, amazing wines. So for me, next is not only Malbec, it's as well very high quality wines from Argentina.
Perfect. I look forward to that because I love great white wines. Alberto, what about you?
I believe the same. I think it's the big challenge has been to show the world that Argentina is a place with a very high level of diversity, and the winemakers now are really working hard on that concept and principle. The knowledge of all the different market terroirs is really developing a lot, and to taste an Argentina Malbec now is definitely a more exciting experience than they used to be, you know, a while ago, and the world is aware of that. I believe also that people are feeling in the world that really there is now a higher level of confidence in Argentinian producer about their main grapes, which is Malbec, and about the huge potential of their terroir, which is important. Confidence is what allows you to make the best. And confidence is something that you can gain over time with knowledge, with experience, with mistakes. And I think it's what I see with my friends and colleagues in Argentina, the level of confidence on the potential of the terroir is fantastic. And we are also switching a bit from winemakers wine to terroir-driven wine, which is important. I always say when we talk too much sometimes about the winemaker, when you talk a lot about the winemaker, the place is not very important. So is a transition that we had to go through. The winemaker is important because he's responsible and is coordinating the whole thing, but you don't want to smell and taste him or her into a glass. And in order to achieve that, it's hard work, knowledge, time, and mistakes.
Yes. And that way you can truly reflect this sense of place, which you've all done so well. Sebastian, what about you?
No, I agree that whites is something that is coming, especially climbing to the mountain, because for many years we thought that we were a red country, and in the last 10 years we have been discovering the potential that we have in whites, looking to the mountain, that this is the challenge. And the other thing is that I believe that there are today a combination of diversity in terms of terroirs and people exploring the terroirs. I think like I said at the beginning, we are part of the like many generations making wine, and the generation today is very concerned about place and about express the place. And I think we are going to have many small projects from many places in Argentina. So I think the future is diversity in terms of terroir and precision in terms of the interpretation of the place.
Yeah, I think that goes back. I mean, all of you kind of tie that in with just kind of starting to understand that place and how grapes react, and that confidence, like you mentioned, and then moving forward with discovering more. And that's very exciting. It makes it a very exciting place. So thank you so much, Sebastian, Susana, Alberto, for your time, for sharing your wines and the stories for you at home. If you were enjoying with us, tasting, wonderful. If you weren't able to, yes, you can still get these wines on Wine.com, and they're fantastic wines, they're fantastic values, and just wonderful representations of this place. And I cannot wait to get to Mendoza again, because this has been very, very wonderful.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Yes, everyone. Was everybody accepting visitors yet? Or not yet?
It's complicated, like every place.
Okay.
Open, close. But really,
Actually, close.
Maybe by your summer next January, there will be more.
Yes.
We
have so many new things to show you.
But it's a fantastic place to come and visit. It's very prepared, and the magic of the place and the wines and
the Andes in the background. I mean,
yes. But also Mendoza is very prepared to receive people, and in the Uco Valley you have many options to visit wineries, to spend time in good places. So it's everything very well prepared to receive people, and I believe that it's much easier to understand what we are saying being here, feeling, looking, tasting.
And
tasting.
Gwendolyn is going to be finished my small hotel for visitors. So I'm going to be, I'm looking forward for having you to visiting us and staying with us.
I look forward to that experience very much. So
You're more than welcome.
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you all of you for your time, and Alberto staying up so late for us. I really enjoyed all of these perspectives, all of these wines, wonderful representations of the Malbec.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Gracias.
Salud. Salute.
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 It's both a science and a form of high art. It's made from the combination of grapes, sunlight, rain, soil, and time. It's raised up in the moments that matter. It's wine. And we are Wine.com. We have the largest wine selection in the world, online sommeliers with free advice, and now our powerful new app puts the entire world of wine in your hands. Wine.com. Seriously passionate about wine. Download our free app today.